You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Charles Lewis and Maxilia Robinson. Only on 101 Jams.
And with us in the studio today is the director of City of Promise, Mr. Sarad Davenport. Sarad is also the pastor of New Green Mountain Baptist Church and has a project coming out soon. So we invited him in to talk about his organization, different things he has going on, and what he's doing for the community. Sarad, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yep, glad to have you. Talk to us. Let's touch on the City of Promise. Explain to the listeners what exactly the City of Promise is, and what's the purpose of it, and what you guys are doing to touch the community.
Okay. So the City of Promise is based on an idea that came by way of a gentleman by the name of Jeffrey Canada in Harlem. He created a program called the Harlem Children's Zone, where they worked in, they started with like 10 blocks in Harlem, and they moved to like 100 blocks in Harlem, where they're working with kids and their families just to give them positive things to do and to help these young people to move on to be successful in life, and to put everything in place that you would for students or families who have resources that come from middle class and wealthy families. We want to make sure that kids in communities that don't have those type of supports are not neglected, and they get those same supports so they can have similar outcomes. So Promise Neighborhoods is based on that, and Charlottesville was selected by the Department of Education to be one of the Promise neighborhoods in the nation to model after the Harlem Children's Zone. So my job is to really foster that type of approach here in Charlottesville, and to build the supports necessary such that young people, no matter where they live or what they look like, can have a pathway to success.
And that's an important work. I got a special place in my heart for kids, and I like to see them be successful. And I like to see them maybe have a life that's different than what they come from, or different from what they see every day, or what they have to model after. And you don't get that unless, or they may not get that unless someone steps in and says, "Let me show you an alternative. Let me give you something different."
That's right. And I myself, and it's special to me because I have a similar background, of a lot of these young people who are coming up that don't necessarily have the supports. And I made a decision probably about 10 years ago to really dedicate my life to making a difference in the community. Before I came back to Charlottesville to do this work, I was working in D.C. For the Knowledge is Power program in Ward 8. So I was doing the same work in D.C., and I just wanted to really be able to give back. I have had some great opportunities, been away to college twice, got a master's degree, traveled to Europe, been around the world, traveled to many cities throughout the United States, and I thought it was quite selfish for me to just keep all of those experiences to myself, and just really wanted to share that with these young people and the people in Charlottesville in general, and show folks that, the world is big, right, and you can get involved in many different ways.
Right, that's important. Too few of us don't give back. So I applaud you for that. So tell me what City of Promise looks like to the kids when the rubber hits the road. Tell me what your work looks like. What do you give? School supplies? What is it?
We do all of that. So we make sure that kids have what they need to be successful. So they may include school supplies, but the main thing that we really do is we try to change the culture and construct an environment that create success, because a lot of things are about environment. And so we've organized after school programs where kids they can drop in and do their homework and do study. They're going to get a snack. You're going to get a healthy snack. You're going to be able to do some enrichment that's going to further and extend your learning in school. We make sure that kids have the supplies they need when school starts, and if they need it, we make sure the kids they need clothes. We'll connect with the right people that have those resources to make sure that they have those things. We're big on health and wellness, so we're providing activities with regards to health and wellness. We have a tennis program. We have a chess team. So all of these different ways of getting kids involved and doing positive things. We're all about making sure that it happens. And if we can't do it ourselves, then we consider it our responsibility to find out who can do it and to make sure that it's available so that there are no gaps and that young people, their families don't fall through the cracks.
Right, right. Okay. He's kind of quiet right now, but Charles is in the studio with us too. Charles, get in here and ask this man a question. He's doing good stuff. Talk to him.
Yeah, well, thanks for visiting us, Pastor Davenport. And so one of the questions that come to mind is you mentioned working in D.C. and in major cities. So what are some of the disparities you see here in Charlottesville compared to maybe some of the bigger cities in the way that City of Promise is helping to fill those gaps?
Well, there's a lot that's different, and then there's a lot that's the same. And the first thing that's different is that, Charlottesville is only 40,000 people, right? Mm-hmm. And some of the larger cities have a larger population, and the larger population just, begets a different problems and sometimes different levels of problems, right? So, but some of the historical factors that play out in the larger cities are the same that play out in Charlottesville with regards to communities of color and achievement gaps, safe communities. All of those things are similar across the board. If you go to D.C., if you go to Chicago, if you go to Louisville, right. If you go to Dallas, some of these issues are exactly the same across the board. Mm-hmm. So it's just it's kind of a microcosm of some of the larger things that are happening in other cities. But a lot of the issues are very similar. Mm-hmm. So
okay. Let me also talk to you about this new project that you got coming out, and what inspired that, and what we have to look forward to.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. So I have a new book that's coming forth the first of the year. It is called The Necessity of Worship. I'll give a little background on it. As people may know, I also pastor a church, so I'm what you call bivocational. I see my work as the same. It's really, spreading love and showing love to people and helping people get what they need so that they can live a more abundant life. So I don't see any dichotomy in that. But this book, I'll talk specifically about that. The origins of this book, funny as it may seem, I was watching a movie with my kids, Happy Feet 2. Okay. And everybody likes Happy Feet. And there were these krills. They looked like shrimp. And at the end of the movie, one of the shrimp was copying Happy Feet. He was doing this dance, and he was saying that he said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "This dance allows me to escape the realities of the world for a moment, right?"
Wow, okay.
And he was saying that, and he said, "What does that mean?" He still didn't understand. He said, "Let's just say it brings out my happy," right? Mm-hmm. So that's what the Krill says. So what I have found through worship is that worship allows us to reconcile a world that is chaotic and out of control at times. Okay. Like, how do I find meaning? How do I live on purpose in this place that seems like it's never settled? It's always something happening, on a large macro level, but also in my personal life. It's crazy. I have crazy relationships. Things are not reconciled. Mm-hmm. And what I found in my own experiences and also through the scriptures is that worship is that place where you can reconcile. You recognize that, at the end of the day, God is still God.
Right. Amen.
And God is still on the throne. And I can have peace. Mm-hmm. Because I know that he's still in control. Right. So that's what the book really gets at. And, hopefully it will help people to know that, even though things are going crazy around you, mm-hmm. They don't necessarily have to be crazy inside of you. Right. And how do you get to that place of peace? And what I found is that worship allows people to get to that place of peace. And, a few things. You got a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. So what I know of you is that, you're definitely, a man about, you could say God's business, being about positive works and giving back, and definitely lending a helping hand. So in regards to the book, like specifically, do you feel like, or rather, in writing this, was your intent to, I guess, like make a book that was more from a religious standpoint, as far as you being a pastor and coming from that perspective, or did you take more of, say, your community ties with City of Promise, things like that, and try to make it more of a secular piece, like to where it encompasses everyone? So do you
So
how do you feel
that's a good question. So this book is really, people in the faith community would be able to feel this work, right? Honestly, but in the coming year, I do have something that will be broader. But this one, I think anybody can get with it, because I think that, how you center yourself and how you get to a place of peace, I believe, the process of doing that, is worship. It's like, how do I get to my place of peace? And anybody can get with it, but it is definitely written from the perspective of someone from the faith community, right? But I do have some works that I'm working on, in the future that will be broader and more kind of about, my perspective on things more broadly and generally, and how I came to this place in my life. Because I wasn't, people think you just was always here. I wasn't always here either, right? So,
None of us were.
Right. So I'm working on that, and I think that, a lot of people that I know are kind of waiting for that perspective from me too. And it's funny you asked that question. They want to hear, like I want to know about you, how you got to that place.
That gives them something to relate to too.
Yeah. So I'm getting there, but this one, I think you will feel it. I actually did a pre-order, and those people who did the pre-order got like a digital copy. So they were able to get the pre-release on Christmas Day. Okay. So they got it, and I got some feedback already. And some folks have told me that they're like, almost finished the book and they're thoroughly enjoying it. And these are people that I know are not necessarily connected to institutional faith community. So like, it's broad. It's broad, and some of the language in it is very inclusive. There's some hip hop in it. There's some, that's just my personality is going to show through anyway. Okay. So. But yeah, so I think people will be able to feel it. But people that are looking for something really broad, stay tuned. Wait for part 2, and or
part 2. Y'all heard it right.
Or that is it'll be a whole different kind of genre. But I do need to do that. But this one will be a good perspective on like where I am right now. Okay. You know what I mean?
Okay. Right. Yeah. And that's very powerful. Very powerful statement. And because one of the things that of course we all here believe in, is being more encompassing and not making anyone feel outcasted. And one of the one interaction that you and I had together that you may not even remember, that actually stuck with me, is I remember there was a young man who we both found out that actually lives in the community near where you pastor. And like, so the first thing that popped in my mind to say to him was hey, you need to go to Minister Davenport's church. Like that's the church you should join. And then your rebuttal was well, no, he doesn't have to worry about joining the church. First come visit us. First just come see us. And I think that's something very noble. To show the caring for people and their well-being, and not just about numbers and saying we have a big church. Right. I think it's very important.
Most definitely, I think everything is about relationships, and like. Love at the end of the day is like the the overarching theme of the Christian faith in general. Love
covers everything.
Is it. So like, and I always tell people when you join a particular faith community, I always say get in where you fit in, but be in a place where you can be comfortable, but also a place where you can be challenged to grow. So like, you want to go to a place where you can be comfortable, but you can also be challenged to grow and be uncomfortable at times, so that you can continue to grow and develop. And that's what I say. And I think the love ethic is, always something that I carry with me. I'm gonna quote a little Tupac right quick. I was talking to
Pac.
Yeah, right. I was telling my brother, because my brother, we we had different paths along the way and things like that. Now he was trying to understand me, and I was like, I really, part of my theological framework is like based on like what Tupac said. This is gonna trip a lot of people out, right?
About to get
Said,
philosophical.
right. He said Tupac said, I hung around with the thugs.
Yeah.
He said even though they sold drugs, they showed a young brother love.
Right. I remember that.
Right. So so I was like, oh, okay. So really what he's saying is that these young brothers out here, they really want to be in a space, in an environment where they feel loved. And, they'll take whatever the access of this, the environment is, as long as they feel loved. So how can we create environments where young people, young men, young women feel like they're loved, right? And not judged and not put down and not disrespected, but respected, loved, and welcomed. And that's just the type of environment wherever I am, whether it's my job or, in the faith community, in the church, that's what I'm trying to put together. I believe, people say, what would Jesus do? I believe Jesus would do that. I believe that's what he did, is provide a space where, people can feel loved, in an environment where they can grow. And become their best selves.
Right. Too often, people can't find that space, and so they generate or look at something and call it love when it's not love at all. But it's real to them, and unfortunately, they end up in a bad space, a bad situation. It causes a bad life, and it's all they know. But good for you for reaching out to them and letting them know this is what it really looks like, and this is where you can go to get it. So I got a question for you. In terms of worship, tell me what your worship looks like.
So my worship, I'll give some things that I think that worship, because worship doesn't necessarily have a particular look. That's what I believe. It doesn't have a particular look.
Okay.
But I believe that worship has to be real, right? And authentic. And real and authentic worship may look different for different environments or different people. But what matters is your heart, right? And the authenticity of your presentation. If you're faking it, right? Then it's not real.
$2 bill.
You know what I mean? Well, $4 bills. Fake as a $2, they still got them running around, but the $4 they ain't got them. So like if it's real, and it's a space where it's free to be real, because you got some environments where it's not really free to be real, But if it's real, then and it's really from the heart, it can show up in different ways. But what really matters is that it's authentic. And I think that the proof is that if you really worship and you really connect, then your life will change.
Right.
It will materialize itself in your life.
Right.
Like, you will overcome obstacles. You will experience deliverance. Those things will happen because of your true and real connection with the Almighty.
Right.
Okay. Awesome. So in regards to that, as far as embracing different faith groups, so to speak, is that and especially I imagine in your work within the community, you have to experience all types of people, different types of people. So where do you feel the balance is, and even regarding your book, like the balance of having people from not only different walks of life, people who may have like different belief sets, but being able to show that fine balance regardless of of what your tradition may be.
Right. So I said like the overarching kind of theme and Christianity is like love. So I think another one is like respect, right? So like, okay, love, I think if you love, then you would be respectful, right? And I think yourself and others and their approach to accessing divinity, right? I am confident and I am clear on my pathway. But that does not mean I have to be disrespectful to someone else, right? I don't have to be disrespectful. In fact, that would be antithetical to the love that I say that I speak of, right? So like if I've loved, then I gotta love unconditionally.
Right.
I gotta love you. If I think you not attractive, I gotta love you. If I think you not smart,
Right.
I gotta love you. I gotta love you. If you think differently than me, I gotta love you regardless, right? And that is where I think that a lot of people, get mixed up, is that they forget kind of the issue of love and respect. Like, so if I do that, wherever you are, I gotta love you wherever you are.
Right. Right.
And
People put conditions on love, and
like,
love is a selfless action.
Yeah, I gotta love you wherever you are. Me may not, just because we don't agree don't mean you don't have the right to not let me love you. I'm love you anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what I think the ethic is important to remember. Like, that even through the scriptures you see, like, Jesus, dealing with people who other people wouldn't deal with, like the Samaritan woman. Like it was not something that was socially acceptable, right? But that's what love does, right? So regardless, that's my framework. Is that just to love and respect, and and understand that there is a power that's greater than all of us.
Awesome. So, and give us a little background on your actual ministry. As far as being pastor, how long have you been? As part of the clergy. If you want to give us any info about your congregation.
Sure. So I pastor New Green Mountain Baptist Church. It's in Esmont, Virginia. I call it the historic New Green Mountain Baptist Church. They're coming up on 120 years. I've been there. It will be 2 years in July. So this is new for me, to have this level of accountability with the congregation. I've been trained. I've went to seminary at Virginia Union. I feel like I have some great training, great professors to kind of help me to get ready for the practice of ministry. But I'm learning along the way, and I understand that it is a great responsibility to be in the position of leading people, particularly in their spiritual lives, because that's deep. It's a lot to think about and to be accountable for. But we have a vision that we are a victorious people living by grace and through faith. So we claim victory in this life and the next. So that is our approach to our faith in this congregation. And I couldn't have asked to be placed into a better congregation. Great people who come from, have a history of doing great things. And I'm just glad to be a part of the congregation, and glad that they have asked me to be their leader. So I'm very honored.
Good. Well, because this is pre-recorded, I can jump around some because there were some questions I wanted to ask you earlier that I didn't get to. All right, so we're going to jump all the way back to City of Promise.
Yep.
I want to talk about some of the accomplishments as far as what you've seen certain children do, what you've seen come out of them, how you may have, helped them for X amount of time and seen them graduate, see them go on to college, see them,
Yeah, it's amazing. I think we probably estimate the impact. Sometimes you put inputs in people and situations and you don't see the results 10 years later, but we've already seeing some of the impact. This year we had from the community 6 kids go to away colleges.
All right.
So that was a big deal. So you have some that are still they go to technical school or they go to PVCC, but we had 6 kids go to away colleges. I help some of those kids move into college. I take all of them on a shopping trip before they go, to get the little things you need for your dorm and everything. And it's really a blessing to be able to see them, move to that next level, and they're doing great. And I still see kids striving to do more and to do better, even those kids who are coming along the way. And the kids that, one of the great things is when your brother or your cousin or your family member goes away to college, when I was growing up, if somebody went missing, you just automatically assume that they were locked up, right? And so that's the conversation piece, right? But now when people start to go away to college at more at higher in higher numbers, then that's a conversation piece also.
Right.
So the kids is saying like, where your brother been? He's been in school. He's been in college, and
good
they go,
news.
yeah, it's good news, and they're like, oh well, hold up. How I get down with that,
Right.
And it's like they start to change and they start to think about, they start to talk about, different pathways to being successful, because there's so many different ways,
Right.
and we just want to make sure that these kids have the opportunity. But I've seen great strides. There's so many. We have there's a garden in the community now. We grew the kids built the beds with one of the neighbors. They grew all of these vegetables this year. We had a crazy harvest.
And then do you give those vegetables back to the families? Or
The community gets it, and it's just a blessing. And the great thing is, I was a skeptic at first. I'm not even gonna lie, but people tell me, nah, man, the garden thing is legit, because it teaches the young people where food comes from, right? And teaches them how to be producers, and how can I create for myself, and not only that, it teaches them about health, and,
right.
and long term, these long term, issues that we deal with in some communities with regards to hypertension and diabetes, and we're discussing these things all around this issue of food.
Right.
So
tell me what made you skeptical.
Because I garden, but I just thought that quite frankly, people would think it was whack. What are we doing out here? And I didn't want to be imposing, right? I never want to be imposing. A lot of people think that, projects and programs will work, but they haven't really, consulted people and asked them if that's something that they would really like to do. They kind of impose it. So I didn't want it to be an imposition. I wanted it to be something that, the kids, the families were really into, and it turned out that they were, which was better for me. I wouldn't have pushed it if it wasn't something that people were really into.
Right.
But yeah, we've had a martial arts program running for 3 years. Chess team. These kids, they went to a chess tournament at Keswick Hall, and they did some damage to some kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we came back with some medals. We didn't get the trophies, but we came back with some medals, and that was good. And I seen lives change just from
right.
When kids, when they have something that makes them feel successful, then that transfers. So it's
Right.
I'm successful at something that, when you feel like you're inadequate all the time. You go to school, you feel inadequate. Wherever you are in the community,
Right.
you feel inadequate. But then you go do something, you're successful.
Right.
Then that transfers to school. That transfers to the community. What, I do have value, and I can bring something to the table. And I've seen that transfer for a lot of these kids. A lot of these kids, I was afraid I was going to lose to the streets.
Right.
And it's just been amazing to see the mind shift. So just really a lot of great things are happening. And before I even say anything further, I have an awesome team. I got people who are working in the community. It's not me. You got to understand, I got people who people trust, and people who have built relationships, and these are the folks who are really on the ground doing the work. My job is to make sure that people have what they need so they can facilitate this kind of culture of achievement.
Right. Well, let me tell you, if you have no idea, if you light that spark in a child, you have no idea what kind of fire you're setting. No idea. Charles, you want to add something?
Yeah. So the as far as you mentioned the inadequacies. So as far as the community as a whole and the different groups, as far as what other groups do you work with, or what's the focus of City of Promise as far as the because I know you mentioned the agenda, but at the same time you can't be everything to everyone. So
Exactly.
so what's some of the ways that you network with some of the other community groups and members?
Definitely. So our job, I'll just say very simply, is to eliminate barriers to success, right? And what that means is that, we either have to provide the service or find someone who does provide the service or create something that fills the gap. So young people, families don't fall through the cracks. But what that means is there's a lot of collaboration. So, we have collaborations with or partnerships with lots of organizations like, for example, CIC, Community Investment Collaborative. They help people start businesses, and we have partnerships with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. We're getting thousands of hours, mentoring hours for the kids in the community through mentoring programs. Our kids get, our middle school kids get automatic enrollment into the Boys and Girls Club. We partner, during winter break, our kids go to the Parks and Rec winter break camps for 2 weeks. Because, and the reason why that helps is parents still have to work, right? So if they don't have a safe place for their kids, then that creates problems for their workplace and their employment. So we try to help to make sure that the kids have a structured place and safe place to be where they're getting enrichment. They went to the Science Museum last week in Richmond, so they're doing great things. So we're creating those partnerships, and that not only helps the kids have that type of enrichment, but the parents can continue to go to work, and they don't have to worry about getting someone to do childcare or whatever. So we're really working with these outside agencies to kind of pull everything together. So that everything is working well for families, and they can continue to thrive and be successful.
Right, and that kind of answers one of my questions, because I wondered, how do you stay in the kids' heads when City of Promise is gone and they're dealing with a real life scenario that may be especially difficult to deal with? And they may not know how to handle it, but it sounds like they are always involved in something positive, and that's what keeps them.
Well, it's a constant job. So it's not something that stops, and it's not something that that we don't have to continue to work at. And what's for certain and what's for sure is that we're not perfect, and first of all, we're willing to admit that, and secondly, that we learn from missteps, mistakes in the past, and we are willing to apologize, right? So first thing is that, so that's the first thing. But things do happen when we're not there, right? And it's our job to help to cultivate a sense of community, so that when we're not there, there are other caring adults who understand, how to produce a positive environment. We all know the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Right. So what we're really trying to do is just cultivate the village, right? And empower people who are village creators to do what they do, right? Awesome. If you're a village creator, we're going to empower you. If you need snacks because you want to run a program, for the kids in the community, when we're not there, let me know. Right. We're going to make sure you got, because we want to make sure that they're empowered to do what they do when we're not there, because it's true. We're not going to be there all the time. And then there's sometimes where we have to help out and step in when there are crises, because they do come up, but that's part of us being there and being that and developing those real relationships.
Right. And that's how you get things done, honestly, is you lean on each other and change some lives in the process. Last question. What is the most fulfilling part of what you do, with regard to, you can answer that actually however you'd like. What's your sense of fulfillment? What do you walk away with at the end of the day?
I walk away at the end of the day knowing that I'm trying to see how to frame this, because in a lot of ways I see myself as a lot of the young people I work with. I see their experiences similar to mine, and I walk away knowing that there were some things that I did get along the way, but there were a lot of things that I missed, and I had to learn on my own through trial and error and bumping my head and knocking my knee and all of this stuff and learning the hard way. And what I get out of it is like, I hope that I have helped somebody or some young people avoid some of those setbacks, pitfalls, bumps in the roads, mistakes that I had to encounter because I didn't necessarily have the right guide at that time. I'm hoping that they can, or I didn't have anybody that even knew what to do in that particular situation, right? I didn't have nobody in my circle that even knew what to do, how to fill out a FAFSA form, you know? You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, my hope is that, you know, for one or some, or hopefully many of these young people, that the people that have been helping out throughout this process have really helped them to overcome some obstacles and to move forward. I tell the kids all the time, they say, man, you know, some of them tell me, when I grow up, I want to be like you. I say, man, you going to be better than me. Like, I want them, my goal is for them to be better than me. And a lot of them don't even know it, is that they are way further along than I was when I was their age, and they don't even know it. They be like, when I grow up, I want to. I'm like, man, look, you just keep doing what you're doing, and you're gonna be all right. Because where you are, I wasn't even there. And some people see when you arrive at a certain place, like you've always been there. But you know, I try to help these young people know. So if I help them understand that they can do it, and that where they live does not dictate their potential or what they can be or what they look like, doesn't dictate how much success they can have. If I'm able to inspire young people to believe beyond their circumstances, you know, that's what keeps me motivated. That's what keeps me doing what I do, and I do that everywhere I go. That's who I am.
Right. Well, like I said, good job to you. Like, I appreciate what you do, and I wish you well on all your endeavors. Thank you for coming in and talking to me and Charles today, and best of luck to you and all you do.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And quickly before we go ahead and do the last plug for the book as far as the release date of when it's going to be public, and how can we get a copy and all of that.
So if you want to get a pre-order copy, you can go to the necessityofworship.com. The necessityofworship.com. It gives a little information about the book, about me. If you want to book me for speaking engagements, things like that, all of that's there. You can get a pre-sale, and they'll be available no later than February. So I'm expecting the books to be on the racks by mid to late January. So. And if you pre-order it, then you get a free digital copy. So if people want to do that, they can. The necessityofworship.com.
And if there's any changes, anything transpires, you want to come back and talk to us again?
Certainly, I would love to come back. This has been great for me. I think you guys do a great job. It's very professional.
Appreciate that. Appreciate it.
You know what else I'm thinking about? Well, we got him here too. Let's get his input on the new year.
Okay.
You know, like as far as what's your stance? Yeah, what's your stance on New Year's resolutions, or just you know, that newness, and how people use this turn, you know, of time to say, okay, this is a fresh beginning, a new start. I'm going to do A, B, and C. You know, your perspective on that. You know, and as far as, you know, seasonal, because people go through seasons. You know, it's natural. The earth goes through seasons. So what's your perspective? Do you have resolution?
I do think that there are seasons, right? And there's a time for everything.
True.
Right? I don't necessarily get caught up in the day, right? Like, I'm going to start on New Year's Day, right? So that's one thing that I say, look, you start today. I usually, you know, that's just been my approach to things. Like, if I say I want to shift something in my life, then, you know, my usual way of going about it is to start when I, come to the point where I know I need to make the shift. Because if I say I'm gonna wait until this happens, then something happens and something happens, and then you never get it done. Yep. So it's like, if you're gonna start a New Year's resolution, my approach to it, or my encouragement to other people, just start today. And then when New Year's come, you'll already be going. Yeah. You're like, you're going to go to the gym on the first, go to the gym today,
right.
Work out today. And then, when New Year's comes, you'll already be in your groove. You'll be rolling. That's just been my way. But I do believe that, there are new seasons in people's life. I think, even myself, I think I'm entering a new season. You can, you feel that shift when it's happening in your life and you're making those turns. I believe people should write it out. I believe in writing. I believe in journaling. I believe in planning and really getting it out of your head so that you can see it. I believe when you see it, on paper, then you can really believe, you can map it out.
Right.
And how am I going to execute this vision?
Makes it a little more real to you when you can look at it.
Exactly. Write the vision, make it plain, and then execute it. So that's my encouragement to people. If you got a vision, you feel like you're moving into a new season, write it out, map it out, plan your work your plan. Don't wait till New Year's, if you're going to start then. No, start now, start today. So that's just my approach to it. That's my encouragement for people who are ready to go into a new season.
Sound good.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you again.